What do you do when you have everything, but you're not necessarily happy? We all reinvent ourselves many times in life. The first step is to have a healthy daily routine and to live it. Part two is to take one step a day, and do one something and watch it add up to a lot. A little bit plus a little bit equals a whole lot.
Welcome back to another episode of Code 3 Life Reinvented. I am joined by a guest, Lorie Kleiner Eckert, based out of Cincinnati, and we're going to talk about her book called High on Life, among other things. The name has quite a deep meaning you'll hear about here momentarily, so I'm excited to welcome her into the conversation. Lorie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, AJ. I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah, well, we're thrilled that you're part of the show, and we're looking forward to hearing your wisdom, and let's just get right into it. You've published a book called High on Life. Let's hear all about the book, what's behind it, the meaning, and so forth.
Sure. It's actually my fifth book, and the impetus for creating this book was that I was trying to promote my fourth book. I was told that I needed to create a website and that I needed to bring people to my website. And so I needed to write on a regular basis. But this is one of my life lessons, I think, is that when you think you've reached an end point, like I created that fourth book, in reality, it's step one of the next step. So then I had to create the website and I had to write for the website. And my career has been in motivation, and my MO has been to tell the stories of my life, hoping that others can glean life lessons from them. And so that's what I did in my blogs. And I came to see that many of the blogs were evergreen. So, for instance, there's a story called 30 Reasons to Be Grateful at my granddaughter's soccer game. And one of the reasons was that some other grandma had her shirt on inside out, but it wasn't me. So that's the story. It's a list of 30 things to be grateful for. And the takeaway is there's always something to be grateful for. And the greatest compliment I get is people say it seems like I'm talking just to them. I have to tell you that a great thing about High on Life is that each story is 2, 3, or 4 pages long. So even if you're not a reader, you can read it when you're on the toilet.
Reading High on Life on the toilet. There you go. Let's spend a minute on the title, because if people are going to look it up, they might need some direction about how to even spell it. And then let's talk about the root of the words and what they mean to you.
So it's spelled CHAI, which some people would think that's like chai tea. It's really a Hebrew word, and it means life. So if you have heard the toast at a wedding or a bar mitzvah that they say l'chaim, to life, that's the word. So, but CHAI can be pronounced chai, like some Yiddish words are, Hebrew words are, but it also is generally pronounced high. So it's being high on life. It's drinking a toast to life. It's all very positive stuff. It's really taking the lemons and turning them into lemonade.
Isn't there more symbolism in the title as well? The numerology? Is there?
I'm not really. That's very interesting. Yes. So I'm not into numerology, but the way that high, the letter is created, it is actually the number 18. So that's a mystical number, but I can't tell you too much about what that means exactly. Jewish people give gifts in multiples of 18 for good luck. If I, just need to give you a little gift, I might give you $18. If I like you a little bit more, 36 and so forth. So it's high or double high or triple high.
And the number 8, well, it's a special number for me for no other reason than I just really love it. And when you turn it on its side, it resembles infinity. There's no start, no end. But I've loved it since I was a kid. In fact, I played Little League Baseball, and my favorite professional baseball player was a catcher by the name of Gary Carter. And I was a catcher in Little League, and he wore number 8, my favorite number.
That's great.
So what were some of the key points of this book? You said you have 30 points of gratitude that are in there. Like, let's tease out your top 3.
I'm really a person who has everything, and that's indeed one of the topics in the book. What do you do when you have everything, but you're not necessarily happy? I'm a very fortunate person, and by writing about it, I realize how lucky I am and how much gratitude I have. And then I model all gratitude to others in my writing. Because I think after you read the story on 30 Reasons to Be Grateful at my granddaughter's soccer game, you can come up with 20 reasons you're happy you live in your house. They're not major reasons. The reasons are small. I had a hairband in my purse so I could tie my hair back on a hot day. So that's one of the main things that I'm grateful for in High in Life, is that it talks about gratitude. Another thing that I'm grateful for High on Life is that it talks about my main belief, I guess, which is that we all reinvent ourselves many times in life. We have positive reinventions and we have negative reinventions, but they all require the same actions. Third thing that I'm grateful about in High in Life is that it really shows my love of family. My grandkids, the stories about them are all over the book. So those would be the reasons that 3 reasons of gratitude for the book itself, because it talks about gratitude, it talks about reinvention, and it talks about that really important thing, family.
You said you wanted to come back to reinvention, and I'm glad you want to as well, because this show is titled Code 3 Life Reinvented. So what a theme for us to hone in on. What about reinvention that requires some actions that you have some points you'd like to make on? I'd love to hear them.
I love talking about reinvention. We all have done it so many times, and I think we need to realize that. So we're in the throes of something. We just got fired from a job, or someone broke up with us and we don't know quite what to do with ourselves. We have to rely on what we've done in the past. And we've reinvented ourselves. So I give a whole list in High in Life, like when you graduated high school, when you graduated college, when you got your first job, when you lost that job, when you got married, when you had kids, on and on. We've all reinvented ourselves a million times. And those happy reinventions, I also quote a play on Broadway called Avenue Q. And the opening line of Avenue Q is this guy comes out on stage and he says, "I just got a bachelor's degree in English." What do you do with a bachelor's degree in English? Most of the time, though, when we think of reinventing ourselves, we think of it after a terrible experience, such as your Code 3 emergencies. And in those times, we're not quite as peppy and cheerful. 2 steps for reinvention. The first step is to have a healthy daily routine and to live it. So we all do things when we're in good shape emotionally. We get out of bed by 8 o'clock or something. We make sure we get dressed every day. For women, we do our hair, we put on our makeup. But all of those kinds of things that we do when we're feeling good, we have to make sure we do those every single day. What is your daily routine? For me, it includes exercise. For me, it includes eating right. And for me, it includes being in touch with other people. It can be a text message or a phone call or really seeing someone in person. But oh gosh, if I'm on my own too much, that doesn't work. And then part two is to take one step a day towards your new life. And if you're, I also suggest that you use a journal to write down what you're doing. But what is the word, AJ? That it keeps you on track. That if you make yourself do such a thing, if you tell a friend that you're going to do it, accountability, that's the word. I suggest that you get a spiral notebook, and all you have to do is write down the date and what activity, what step you took. And it can be a teeny tiny step. And sometimes you'll find out it was a misstep or it was a side step. It doesn't matter. You just keep taking steps. If you're in a bad reinvention for something terrible that's happened, the loss of a loved one or whatever, it's okay just to do one thing a day because days add up. And then write all of those actions down in that great word, the accountability log. Very easy two-step. And I write a whole story about step-by-step to a rich life. And I talk about a boy that I graduated high school with. So he's also a 73-year-old boy. And his name is Mike Kahn. He wrote a whole series of mysteries featuring his detective, Rachel Gold. They're all set in St. Louis, which is our hometown. He was a trial attorney, and he was the father of 5. And so how on earth did he write all of these books? And the answer is, according to what he has said in articles I've read, he wrote 1 page a night, every night, 7 days a week. And the average book is 360 pages, 350-ish pages. So 1 page a day for a year. It's not rocket science. So I tell people, if you want to learn to play piano, practice 10 minutes a day, but make sure you record yourself on day 1. So a week later, you'll know that you really improved. And just watch, if you do this daily, how large the stack of sheet music becomes, because a little bit plus a little bit equals a whole lot, which is one of the images in High on Life that I like so much.
And I think what you're saying makes a ton of sense. And I would completely agree. The healthy daily routine, I would even might expand upon it in my vernacular, and how we do things at my company more is about self-compassion. And it's a little different, but same idea in a way. These are things you can control. And it is amazing that there's a virtuous cycle that starts when you start eating healthier, you start taking care of yourself better, you start wanting to eat healthier, and it just, good things happen. And these are, to your point, these are things you can control. When I talk about self-compassion, I talk about encouraging people to choose themselves, to understand that, they are the star of their show and they need to refuel and re-energize and take care of themselves as much as they need to. And for a lot of high achievers and high performers out there, like, it's hard to find that time because we're so busy achieving, right? And doing all the things for all these other people to achieve for them and not making space for ourselves and taking care of ourselves. So I think that is right. And then step 2 is a step a day. Exactly. Like, people who've listened to this show so far will know I talk about the power of compounding, and these little micro actions, micro steps do add up. And I love that example of your high school friend who's wrote a page a night. Like, that is incredible discipline and accountability to himself, or maybe to his publisher. I'm not sure. But either way, like, a page, now sometimes it's daunting as someone who's bringing a book to market myself. Like, there are days when you're like, okay, I've got the blinking cursor writer's block here situation. but a page is not a ton of words, and they may not be the magical words that stay in the final copy, but you're making progress. And, in 2 or 3 months' time, you're like, oh my gosh, I've got a huge chunk of this book down. May not be perfect, but it's progress. And that's the important part. And I think you're really right there. Were those born out of any experience that you had with reinvention?
My dad had a very rigid isn't the right word, but he had a routine in retirement. And so, if it was Monday, he mentored at an elementary school. If it was Tuesday, he went to the Temple Brotherhood meeting or whatever. Every day had something. Likewise, his mother, my grandmother, made a different soup every day. If it was Monday, it was bean soup. If it was Tuesday, it was vegetable soup, and on we went. And I like to say of them, my mom died after a 5-week illness, so really fast from healthy to gone. But when my mom died and when my grandfather died, I like to say that they didn't know what to do with themselves. And then as far as an accountability log, I started that when I went through empty nest syndrome. And I just remember lying on the sofa, and the silence in the house felt like a weight on me, like I couldn't lift up from the sofa. So I don't know where I got the idea to get up off the sofa and do one thing a day, but that's when I started living by that philosophy. And it was earth-shattering. I was looking for volunteer work, basically, and I found volunteermatch.com, and I called one nonprofit one day, and the next day I called another nonprofit. It took me like 7 days, and I was up off the sofa. And I actually think if you're keeping an accountability log, to keep it, so that the next time you're reinventing yourself and say, oh, look, it only took 15 steps last time. But I like to have a list of these people are my friends, because when you're flying high, everyone's your friend. And when you're having a down day, you think you're a social pariah. And so it's great to have a list. Plus, some friends want to travel with you, and some friends want to have dinner or go to a movie. And having a list like that in the back, I keep it in the back of my accountability log.
What's interesting about that, and it's a new twist into the conversation for me, from the standpoint that yes, we can have gratitude journals, and I think they can be really fantastic. And when you said earlier in the show, like, there's so many reasons to be grateful, and there are. And I think sometimes when we're struggling or not, it's nice to every night or every morning, whatever the routine is, to document. Like, I'm going to write down, they have, actually, you can buy gratitude journals, but just get a piece of paper and pen, and what am I grateful for today? Who am I grateful for? These things, and just write them down. The twist here about the accountability log, which is really interesting, I think, is I'm going to be accountable to myself. Like, I'm not accountable to anybody else but me getting through this reinvention, whether it was thrust upon me and very unwelcome, and I'm in a terrifying space. But if I'm writing down something I'm going to do every day, that can help form habits and grow muscles that you didn't have before. And yes, you can look back and hopefully you'll see a lot of progress with time, but you're honoring yourself that you need to go through this reinvention, and you're doing the steps needed to take or to be taken to get where you need to go. And I think that's a really interesting thing for folks to think about. Like, if I'm going through reinvention, I'm in the middle of it, I think it's coming, I'm not there yet, maybe this is a tool or a trick that could be really helpful for you.
It's astounding that you thought you were dilly-dallying one day, but instead, when you were looking around on the internet, you found something that then becomes key to what happens next. So, for instance, If High on Life becomes hugely successful, as I hope it will, one of the things that played a part in this is that I got a new car with CarPlay. And so I started listening to podcasts. And I have learned so much from podcasts, both on how to live life, nutrition, but also I have a shop on Etsy. There's a show, Crickets to Cha-Ching, with hints on how to sell on Etsy. I have learned so much from podcasts because I got a new car. Is that insane? But that's how life is. It's lots of little stupid things that add up. So you do have to get out there and live your life. You have to. Yes, one step at a time. I have to tell you, though, to your self-compassion. So in High on Life, every story has one image to sum things up. But there's a chapter, there's a famous quote from a rabbi named Hillel that's basically the golden rule. It says, if I am not for myself, who will be for me? If I am for myself alone, what am I? And if not now, when? And so, of course, you have to take care of your neighbor, your brother, your cousin, but you're also included. You have to take care of yourself. And that's the piece that's hard for me, the self-care. So at the end of this chapter, I give 3 images. You get 3 images about self-care because that's really important, your self-compassion, as you would call it. We're right on the same wavelength in many ways.
It just is interesting to me. Established self-compassion is one of our 6 pillars at More for our methodology. I think it garners some eye rolls when I mention it to some people, like, oh, what is this about? What is this woo-woo stuff? No, it's actually one of the most important things you can do is to take care of yourself and get yourself fit and primed to move into the next chapter. Your self-compassion is your foundation. And no matter how beautiful a house you build on top of your foundation, if the foundation isn't laid right, it isn't thick enough, it isn't tended to, it has cracks in it. You can go on and on with the metaphor, but you get my point. The house isn't going to stand up for very long if it isn't made on a strongly made and poured foundation. And so that's why I think it is so critical, and why I sort of pound my fists on the table about that, and really encourage you, one, to make time to invest in yourself, take care of yourself, have a timeout, meditate, go for that walk. When we think about the high performers that are out there, why do high performers typically resist change? And how can we get them and help them move through it? How can they move through it?
Change is hard. My first 2 books are illustrated with quilts that have words and symbols pieced into the design. And I used to work as a motivational speaker, and the stories I told about my quilts, they were my visual aids, developed my story. So one of the quilts says, change is, and it's the quilt pattern that's called ocean waves. And the ocean waves roll in and roll out and roll in and roll out, and they change and they change and they change. Amen. So I don't know how to get people to be less resistant to change. But for the high performers, I would suggest that they go to a cemetery and see what's written on those tombstones. There are not bullet points of accomplishments in life. It's not going to be on my grave. It's going to be that I was a mom and a grandma and a loving friend. So get a little balance, I'm a high performer. You are too. But yeah, I don't know. What are your suggestions for those who resist change?
What I like to do is this whole notion of radical honesty. I think there are those that are successful and they enjoy their success and they are super happy and aligned in their lives. There are those that are super successful, but they feel like something's not there. Something's not it. That success is not actually leading to success in a broader term in their life. And it is those people where I think we need to have an honest conversation, a radically honest conversation with themselves around what's really important, what's missing, what are your core values, your non-negotiable elements of your life, and think long and hard about, are you, well, not even thinking, but like doing the exercise around value identification and the I want exercise. I want this without caveats, without if-then statements. And they may not all be about, I want a promotion and 100% raise, although sometimes those are quite nice. But there are other things, right? And though, if there are other things, like you value fun, you value family, you value time spent with friends, you value alone time reading, whatever it is, like we need to break and get you there. Because if you are not in alignment with where you are at your core, forget where other people think you should be. Forget worrying about what you care about and what's going to bring you ultimate joy. So when you get to, your example, tombstone time, what really mattered to you came through in the time that you have left on this planet. And we've got one shot. There's no do-over down the road or at the next lap around the track, because there's only one lap. So you might as well figure it out while you're, and get to what's important to you now, as opposed to waiting. Because at what cost do you want to wait? Is it going to be a health cost? I know all about that. That could cause real problems. Is it relationship costs? How much do you want to put your relationship with your spouse or partner or your children on the line? Your mental health costs, your physical costs, the cost of your body because you're probably not eating right, because you're self-soothing by eating things that make you feel good, comfort foods, and not eating at the right time of day. So let's get you back in balance and on a path that is truly unique and important to you. And that's where I think I would start the conversation, because everything has a cost and a consequence. And if you observe and can identify that there are massive costs out there that we're going to hit because you're not in alignment, well, let's deal with those.
Well, again, I just kind of think if we remind everybody how much change they have gone through, again, graduated high school, graduated college, got married, got divorced, moved to San Francisco, whatever you did, this is all change. This is all personal reinvention, and you've done it. So can't you do it again? And I would think that the people who are working with you at More, that they came there for a reason. So they may be resistant, but hey, you're the one that walked in the door. Mm-hmm. So I do a story in High on Life about journaling and the great reasons to journal. But maybe that person resistant to change has to do a writing sprint. So in a writing sprint, you set a timer for, 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And the rule is that the pencil moves on the page. It does not stop. And even if you say, I'm writing junk, soon another thought's going to come to you and you're going to write that. So it's a great way to get in there. So to ask yourself why you're resistant change. You're the only one who knows. You're the only one being hurt by it. I think it's great to remind people of how successful they have been at personal reinvention. And make a list of all the times you did it. I mean, I got married, I got divorced, I was in a couple different relationships, I had 3 kids, I've lived in San Diego and LA, St. Louis and Ohio. I've been successful. I reinvented myself. How many times? We've done it over and over, and we're good at it. Pat yourself on the back. Have a dish of ice cream in honor.
But yeah, no, I think that's right. And what's the common denominator through all these changes is you. And you did it, and you got through. As daunting or as terrifying or as disruptive as that change might have seemed it looked at the outset to you. It's something that you've been through and you will conquer again. One thing that I went through after my second heart attack in April of 2024, my cardiologist was in my ear about retiring. And I was like, I have unfinished business here on this planet. And I got to keep going. I'm going to make changes that are important to me and responsible to my health. But that being said, I used to go on walks in the morning. Every morning I go for a walk. And there was a period of time when I started thinking about, like, my wife and I probably have to make some changes. We probably can't live in high-priced California. That's probably not great for my ticker. And just go to a much more calming place by the ocean, less stress, lower cost, all this stuff. Before we came to that conclusion that we were going to move, which we have since done, I would walk on my daily walk and just reflect on, what do I really need? There are a lot of things I would like, but when I bake it all down, what do I need in life? Things became really crystal clear to me. For example, my relationship with my wife, Liz, my children, a roof over my head, food in my belly. But then I thought about all the other things that I enjoy. Like, do I need them? I would like them, but they're not super necessary to the core of my being on the time on this planet. I share this because I think, thinking about resisting reinvention or going through reinvention, I think a lot of resistance is, you're up against, like, well, I'm going to give up so much. And if I make this change, I move, or I leave a lucrative job to, I don't know, join a nonprofit or whatever it is, I'm going to give up so much. But so much what? Is it just stuff in your life? Stuff that looks good to the neighbors and to your peer group where you live? Mm-hmm. Or are these things that you're giving up so much, and that includes things you truly fundamentally need? And I think that for me, that was an incredibly clarifying exercise. And it made our decision to leave a place we thought we'd never leave, a community we loved, but life had other plans. My health was dictating a lot of it. And it made it a lot easier to think, like, well, if I move, my initial thought was, I'm going to give up so much. But when it came down to it, like, the stuff I really care about, that can come with me. And I can build out again from there.
I have a story in High on Life about my COVID-19, reinvention. And what happened at that time is that Facebook showed me an image from, I don't remember how many years ago, but it was my grandson sleeping on my chest, little bitty guy. He was like 2 weeks old. And it was very rare for me to have that kind of a babysitting day. I had more formalized events with my kids and grandkids. But it's like, why didn't I have more of those days? And so here with that, with COVID reminding us that we're mortal, and that picture from Facebook, I was like, it's time to be sure that I do have plenty of time for the kids, So I got 10 grandkids, and they all live in a 5-mile radius of me. I'm so lucky, but I'm also full of soccer games and dance recitals, all the time. And I try and go. So what's more important? So we can indeed book podcasts around soccer games. No brainer, can do.
No brainer.
But I'm not, so much that I'm not willing to give up is time with the kids and the grandkids. That's important.
That's your non-negotiable. That's your non-negotiable.
And it could be because I'm 73 years old. I'm very proud of it. It's wonderful. And enough is enough.
Thanks so much for sharing your life, some of your life stories here, and what's really important to you in your book. If you could leave our listeners with a thought today, maybe you want to go back to something we've covered, or maybe this is a new idea, what would you leave them with that they could implement as early as today that could help them achieve being high on life?
I would definitely tell them to take one step. Even if their life is pretty perfect, like really mine is, there are still, if nothing else, relationships that could be better. And so that would be my action of the day, is to reach out to someone I love just to say hi. And so, yes, so in whatever category, your professional life, your personal life, your whatever, volunteer work, pick one and do one something and watch it add up to a lot. A little bit plus a little bit equals a whole lot. Yep.
Lorie, how can people find you and your work, your quilting work and your books? You have a website that you point people to?
Got it all. Yeah. Lorie Kleiner Eckert. And they Google that, they'll come up with everything. My website will tell them so much. I'm even Lorie Kleiner Eckert.etsy.com. So I'm just everywhere as Lorie Kleiner Eckert.
We'll get those into the show notes. So if you're driving or someplace where you're not writing things down or in front of your computer, you can click on those links there too. So Lorie, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been really a great conversation having you here and listening to your wisdom and experiences. If this conversation moved or inspired you, check out bemorealigned.com. There we have workbooks and ways to join more. More is a destination for accomplished professionals who are at a crossroads, who are looking to break out of that feeling of numb success and into a world of aligned reinvention. So please feel free to check us out there at bemorealigned.com. You can reach me, AJ, anytime at hello@bemorealigned.com. And remember, life doesn't wait for the perfect moment. It waits for the brave one. I'm AJ Jones. Let's keep growing, keep choosing you, and keep redefining what's possible.